The Galactic Federation sprawled across the stars, a colossus of unity, order, and power. A network of species, each more advanced than the last, wielding technology and influence beyond Earth's wildest dreams. But for all its grandeur, Earth was nothing. Humanity was a footnote, a tiny speck on the map of the galaxy. In the council chambers, the Federation leaders argued over resources, borders, and trade routes, as if humanity's existence barely mattered. The council members, multi-eyed creatures with gleaming skin and minds far beyond human comprehension, spoke of humanity with the same casual disinterest one might reserve for an insignificant insect. Humans, primitive, no more than a curiosity. One of the Zilnar delegates mused, his voice dripping with condescension. To them, Earth was an afterthought, a planet of violent, unrefined creatures, only just learning to walk amongst the stars. Humanity's space stations were outdated, their ships clunky and inefficient, a far cry from the sleek, powerful vessels of the Federation's elite. And yet, Earth survived, it persevered, it adapted. But to the Federation, it was simply a relic of a past, too inconvenient to acknowledge. As the leaders of the Federation prepared for another debate on the Zephyr Dominion's latest incursions, humanity's plight was nothing more than a fleeting whisper in the void. Commander Ryan Mitchell sat alone in his quarters, the weight of years of frustration settling on his shoulders. His uniform, once crisp, now looked worn and battered, a reflection of the constant struggle he had faced throughout his career. His eyes were bloodshot from sleepless nights, each one spent fighting the same battle, proving humanity's worth to the galaxy. Despite his countless victories, despite leading Earth's forces to impressive successes, the Federation still treated him like a child playing in the sandbox. The Zephyr had crushed another Federation fleet, and Ryan knew the words that would come next. Humanity is unworthy, they would say. The Earthlings can do nothing. He slammed his fist into the table, the sound echoing through the sterile silence of his room. He had been on the front lines. He had seen his comrades fall, watched entire planets burn. He knew what humanity was capable of, but none of that mattered to the Federation. They saw his people as expendable, just pawns in a galactic game they could play without concern. Damn it, he muttered, staring out at the stars. We deserve more than this. A knock at the door pulled him from his thoughts. His first officer, Lieutenant Harris, stood in the doorway, her expression serious. They need us again, sir. The Federation is calling in every ship. The Zephyr are moving faster than expected. Ryan nodded, the familiar feeling of resentment bubbling up. He was tired of being used, tired of being the one to clean up the mess the Federation couldn't handle. We'll show them what humanity is made of, he said, his voice cold. Let's get to work. The Zephyr Dominion was relentless, an empire born from the ashes of countless conquered worlds. They had spread their dark influence across the galaxy, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. Every corner of the Federation had been touched by the war, yet the Federation had not called on humanity's aid, not until the very last moment. Ryan watched as the holo display in his war room flickered to life, showing the current state of the war. The Federation's fleets were scattered, disorganized, struggling to fend off the Zephyr's unyielding assault. Another planet lost, Harris said, her voice heavy with the weight of the situation. Ryan's jaw clenched. The Zephyr were methodical, cold, and they didn't care about the lives they trampled. Each battle fought was a step closer to total galactic domination, and the Federation couldn't even hold their own against them. Still, Earth was dismissed, even though their military technology was growing stronger by the day, even though they had developed tactics the Federation could not have anticipated. Humanity was still seen as insignificant. Ryan slammed his fist against the display. Damn it, why are we always the last resort? We're as much a part of this galaxy as anyone else. But the Federation didn't see it that way. They viewed Earth as a mere resource, a pawn in a game they didn't care to play with. The Federation had run out of options. Their fleets were failing. Entire systems were falling to the Xipher's relentless advance. And now, in their desperation, they turned to Earth, not as equals, but as a strategic outpost. "Carter, I need your ship at the front lines," the Federation commander ordered, his voice devoid of empathy. "Humanity's forces are to support our next offensive against the Xipher. You will follow Federation command protocols." Ryan stared at the officer on the screen, his anger barely contained. "So now, we're good enough to be used, huh? To be nothing but cannon fodder?" The commander's gaze was dismissive, almost amused. "If you succeed, perhaps we'll reconsider Earth's position in the Federation." Ryan's heart boiled with a mix of rage and disbelief. He'd spent his entire career proving humanity's worth, fighting to be recognized. And now, with the Federation's back against the wall, they had come to him like a last-ditch attempt to save face. "You don't get it, do you?" Ryan said, his voice a low growl. "You don't get how dangerous it is to push humanity into a corner. We'll fight your war, but don't think for a second we'll stay in the shadows anymore." The Federation might have seen humanity as weak, but they were about to learn just how deadly Earth could be when it had nothing left to lose. The vastness of space had never seemed more oppressive. The Federation's warships, gargantuan and cold, cut through the heavens like silent harbingers of doom. Thousands of ships, each a towering testament to the Federation's unchallenged superiority, descended on Earth. Their engines pulsed with power, casting a red glow across the sky, like the foreboding warning of an inevitable storm. On Earth, the news spread faster than the ships. Across every screen, in every language, the same message echoed: compliance or destruction. The Federation wasn't asking for assistance, they were demanding it. They had no interest in negotiation. The ships hovered above Earth's cities like distant gods, their cold, mechanical gaze peering down with indifference. The Federation had long ago decided that humanity was beneath them, a mere blip on the radar of interstellar politics. Earth was nothing more than a strategic outpost, a tool to be used in the Federation's endless war with the Xipher Dominion. In the heart of the United Nations Assembly, leaders sat frozen, watching the colossal fleet on their screens. The room was silent, suffocating under the weight of the impossible decision. Earth was small, weak. The Federation's forces had wiped out countless enemies across the stars, but they couldn't afford another defeat. Yet the cost of Earth's compliance would be far worse, losing their dignity, their humanity. General Carter Mitchell stood at the front, his fists clenched, every nerve in his body fighting against the overwhelming sense of insignificance. "They think we're nothing," he muttered, the words barely audible. "But we're more than that, and we're not their slaves." The Federation's ambassador, a sleek, angular being with no visible mouth or eyes, stood before Earth's leaders, offering nothing but condescension. "You will comply, Commander Mitchell," the ambassador's voice echoed, its tone a hollow whisper that seemed to penetrate their very souls. "Your species is not fit for this war. You are a tool, nothing more. The Xipher threat cannot be contained without our intervention." But Commander Mitchell's gaze remained unwavering. "We will not be your tool," he spat, his voice rising above the murmurs of disbelief. "Humanity may be young, but we've faced worse than you. If you want our help, you'll treat us as equals. We will not kneel before you." The Federation's envoy let out a harsh laugh, a chilling sound that filled the room with mockery. "Equal?" the ambassador sneered. "You're nothing. Your species is barely out of the cradle. You think you have a place in this war? You are lucky we even consider you useful." The laughter echoed in Mitchell's ears, stoking the fire of his resolve. He knew the truth. Humanity's strength lay in its creativity, in its refusal to be broken. "We will fight on our own terms, or not at all," Mitchell declared, his voice filled with fiery conviction. And with that, the Federation's arrogance was on full display.
To them, humanity's refusal was nothing but a brief inconvenience, a small resistance that would be swept aside when the Federation's will was made clear. But they underestimated the resilience of humanity. As the Federation ships loomed over Earth's atmosphere, the Zephyr Dominion had been watching, sensing Earth's newfound vulnerability. The Zephyr struck with brutal precision. It began with a flash in the sky, a streak of light, followed by an explosion that rattled the ground. The Zephyr's invasion was swift, merciless, and without warning. Their ships tore through Earth's defense systems with ease, and cities once thought invulnerable were reduced to ash in minutes. On Earth's military command, the lights flickered as the attack alarms blared. Mitchell stood at the head of his command center, watching the chaos unfold. The Federation had failed to provide any meaningful support. Humanity was on its own. Commander Mitchell, his second-in-command, Lieutenant Harris, said, her voice strained. They're everywhere. The Zephyr are overwhelming us. Mitchell's heart pounded, but his mind was sharp. We don't back down. Not now. Not ever, he growled. He turned to his officers. Prepare the counter-offensive. It's time humanity showed the galaxy what it's made of. They would not die in the shadow of the Federation's indifference. They would fight back, no matter the odds. The Federation's true nature was revealed soon after the Zephyr launched their full-scale assault. Panic swept through the Federation ranks. Leaders who had once been so confident now trembled in fear as they realized the Zephyr were more formidable than they had anticipated. I'm advising immediate withdrawal, a Federation fleet commander stated, his voice trembling with fear. We can't risk losing the fleet to the Zephyr. Earth will fall, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. Mitchell's eyes burned with betrayal as he listened to the Federation's plan to abandon Earth, to retreat from the fight, leaving humanity to die alone. He slammed his fist against the command console. That's it. After all we fought for, you're just going to leave us to the Zephyr? Mitchell shouted. We are not disposable. But the Federation's decision was made. Earth, once a pawn to be used when necessary, had outlived its usefulness. The Federation's cowardice left humanity exposed, alone in a war they never asked to be part of. As the Federation ships turned their backs on Earth, Mitchell made a vow. The Federation would learn the hard way what happens when they underestimate humanity. The galaxy would soon see what humans could do when pushed to the brink.
Earth's defenses were in shambles. The Zephyr, alien conquerors with technology light years ahead of humanity's, had torn through Earth's outer defenses like a hot knife through butter. Yet, humanity had something the Zephyr didn't: ingenuity. In the command center of Earth's military headquarters, General Carter Mitchell stood over a table strewn with maps, blueprints, and makeshift schematics. His eyes were bloodshot, his mind racing. The Zephyr thought they could crush humanity with brute force, but they hadn't reckoned with humanity's creativity. Get the EMPs ready, Mitchell ordered. We're not going down without a fight. With a ragtag fleet and limited resources, humanity launched a counterattack that defied all expectations. Makeshift weapons, clever traps, and old Earth technologies were employed in ways the Zephyr never saw coming. No one had thought they could win, but they could make the invaders bleed. And that's exactly what they did. Atop Earth's remaining defense platforms, human soldiers fought with a desperation that stunned even their own commanders. They knew they were outgunned, but it didn't matter. The Zephyr had underestimated the one thing humanity had in abundance: sheer determination. Explosions rocked the landscape as EMP blasts fried the Zephyr's advanced systems. Human fighters darted between the wreckage, coordinating attacks that sent shockwaves through the Zephyr ranks. For the first time since the invasion began, the Zephyr were on the back foot. We'll show them, Mitchell muttered to himself as he watched the unexpected victories unfold on the screens. We will not be their pawn. The Zephyr fleet had been known for its ruthlessness and superior technology, Never before had they been faced with such unyielding resistance from a species they considered primitive. But now, in the ashes of a burning city, they were beginning to realize just how dangerous humanity could be. Zyphar Commander Raxar, who had been leading the invasion, stood at the helm of his command ship, his antennae twitching with frustration. He watched in disbelief as one of his heavily armored assault units was overwhelmed by human forces, armed with nothing more than scavenged weapons and homemade explosives. "They're adapting," Raxar growled, pacing in his control room. "This can't be happening." Across the galaxy, the shock was palpable. The Federation, watching from a safe distance, had expected Earth to fall within hours. Instead, humanity had taken the first steps toward turning the tide. Every victory, however small, was a blow to the Zyphar's overconfidence. Humanity had drawn blood. The Federation watched in stunned silence as Earth's forces, though battered and broken, delivered their first major blow to the Zyphar invaders. "We've underestimated them," whispered one of the Federation commanders, her eyes wide with disbelief. "They're not just a backwater species. They're something else." The Federation's High Council convened, their holographic images flickering in the darkened room. The leader of the Federation, a cold, calculating being, observed the data streaming across the screens. Earth had done the unthinkable. They had struck a blow against the Zyphar, one that sent shockwaves through the galaxy. "I don't believe what I'm seeing," one council member said, his voice tinged with unease. How could this primitive species actually hold their ground? The Federation had always viewed humanity as insignificant, an experiment at best, a nuisance at worst. They were weak, divided, and had no place in the grand scheme of galactic politics. But now, those assumptions were being shattered. The Zyphar were caught off guard, another council member mused. But Earth's strategy, it's different. It's clever. The Federation leader's voice was icy. "No, this is no accident. Humanity has the potential for far more than we've given them credit for." The council fell silent. They could no longer deny the truth. Humanity was capable of far more than they had ever imagined. But the question remained, was it too late for the Federation to correct their misjudgment? In the midst of their desperation, General Mitchell had one final plan. He had no illusions about defeating the Zyphar in a traditional battle. Earth was already in ruins, and their forces were spread thin. But if they couldn't win with strength, they would win with ingenuity. Mitchell's voice was steady as he briefed his officers. "We're going to make Earth a death trap. The Zyphar may have technology, but they don't understand our world. We have weather, terrain, ecosystems they've never encountered. We'll use that." He deployed his troops into the wildest, most inhospitable parts of the planet. Jungles, deserts, mountains. Earth's natural forces, combined with advanced human-made weapons, would force the Zyphar into unfamiliar terrain, one where their technology could be exploited. The Zyphar were used to battlefield precision, but they were not prepared for the brutal unpredictability of Earth's environment. The Zyphar fleet, confident in their superiority, began advancing into Earth's heartlands. What they didn't anticipate was humanity's mastery over their own planet. Torrential rain, earthquakes, and wildfires combined with human-made traps that turned every inch of Earth into a deadly battleground. The Zyphar were caught in a nightmare of their own making. Mitchell stood at the front of his troops, a determined fire in his eyes. "This is our world," he said, his voice echoing in the chaos. "We fight on our terms, or we die fighting." The Zyphar's loss was humanity's gain, but victory came at an unimaginable cost. Earth's cities, once symbols of human progress, now lay in ruins. Millions had perished in the onslaught. Fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, all casualties of a war they never asked for. General Mitchell stood on a broken street, gazing out at the devastation. His heart ached with the loss, but there was one truth that burned brighter than the flames of destruction. Humanity had fought back. They had refused to be crushed.
"We've paid the price for our defiance," Mitchell said, his voice heavy, "but we've also shown them what we're capable of." The Zyphar had underestimated Earth, and now they knew better. Humanity's spirit had been tested, and it had not broken. Against all odds, against overwhelming force, Earth had held its ground, and no matter the cost, that was something the galaxy would never forget. The Zyphar Dominion had come in full force. Massive warships blotted out the sun, casting the Earth in shadow. Their technology, incomprehensible to humans, ripped through the planet's defenses like a predator, toying with its prey. Cities were turned to dust, whole regions fell in flames. The sound of falling buildings, explosions, and the crackling of dying communication systems filled the air, drowning out the last remnants of human hope. On the ground, Earth's forces were barely holding on. Commander Mitchell stood on the remnants of what was once a thriving metropolis, the world around him a twisted ruin. His face was grim, his expression unreadable, but beneath the cold exterior, his mind raced. "They've taken everything," one of his officers said, her voice barely above a whisper. "We're losing. We're not done yet," Mitchell replied, his voice steady. His eyes were fixed on the horizon, where the Zyphar fleet hovered. They were everywhere, miles of battle cruisers, landing crafts, and war machines, all hovering like a storm waiting to strike. But Mitchell's words were not just for his team, they were for himself too. Despite the overwhelming odds, he couldn't afford to give up. Not yet, not while there was even a sliver of humanity left to fight, and fight they would. But as Earth's cities fell, as the airwaves filled with the last cries of resistance, Mitchell knew that their survival was slipping through their fingers. Was there hope, or had humanity's brightest hour already passed? Amid the ruins of Earth's last defenses, a stunning revelation broke through the bleakness of their situation. Humanity had not been idle during the Zyphar's invasion. Hidden deep within military bunkers and secret labs, they had been working on a weapon unlike any the Zyphar could imagine. In an underground command center, Mitchell received the message, a simple transmission, one that was like a bolt of lightning to his heart. "General, we've done it. The weapon is ready." Earth had reverse-engineered Zyphar technology, an alien system they had captured early in the war, and used it to create something unthinkable, a hybrid of alien precision and human ingenuity. It wasn't just technology, it was a new approach to warfare, one that didn't play by the same rules the Zyphar understood. Mitchell stared at the data stream in disbelief. The Zyphar had invaded thinking they were invincible, but they hadn't expected the creativity and resilience of a species driven to the edge. Humanity's secret weapon wasn't just a machine, it was the ultimate blend of human resourcefulness and alien strength. It wasn't about matching firepower, it was about making the enemy play by our rules. With no time to waste, Mitchell made the call. Launch it, every single last one of them. The tide of battle had already turned in their favor, but the Zyphar were not going to surrender so easily. Commander Mitchell knew that this was the final act, an all-or-nothing gamble to drive the invaders from Earth once and for all. As the Zyphar flagship descended through the atmosphere, confident in their dominance, Earth's forces waited. The trap had been set, but it was a trap that only Mitchell could lead. His heart raced as the countdown began. This wasn't just another battle, this was the last hope for humanity. "Are you sure about this?" one of his officers asked. "If we fail, the planet's finished." Mitchell's face tightened. He could feel the weight of every life on Earth bearing down on him. "If we don't try, we're already dead. We take the shot, or we die trying." The trap was simple. Lure the Zyphar flagship into the heart of Earth's most dangerous terrain, a jagged mountain range filled with natural electromagnetic anomalies. The Zyphar's technological advantage would be nullified here. It was a gamble, a desperate last stand. Victory meant Earth's survival, failure meant nothing. The countdown hit zero. The world held its breath as the ambush was unleashed. The skies lit up as Earth's weapon systems, now supercharged with alien tech, collided with the Zyphar flagship. But the ship's hull cracked, and it was not an instant victory. The flagship fought back with deadly force. Earth's resistance was already breaking under the Xiphar's counterattacks. The end was near. But humanity had one more trick up their sleeve, and Mitchell wasn't going down without making sure they were all remembered. What happened next defied all logic, all the rules of warfare the Xiphar had lived by. Their superior technology, once thought to be invincible, was outmatched. Earth's surprise weapon, alien technology combined with human resourcefulness, cut through the Xiphar's defenses like a knife through butter. The flagship's engines went dark, its shields flickered, then collapsed under the barrage. The battle was no longer a question of if humanity could win. It was now a matter of how much the Xiphar could still fight back. Commander Raxar, the Xiphar general, stood on the command bridge of his flagship, eyes wide with disbelief. This is impossible. How? His command crew was silent. The once feared Xiphar dominion was breaking apart, its forces shattered. The ship groaned as it descended toward Earth's surface, unable to fight back. One by one, the invading ships began to retreat, their will shattered, their morale in ruins. The final blow was coming, and it would come not from technology, but from the unyielding will of a species who would never surrender. The Federation, who had long dismissed humanity as insignificant, now watched in stunned silence as the Xiphar flagship fell from the sky, burning in Earth's atmosphere. The humans had done what no one thought possible. They had crushed a galactic empire that had long claimed dominance over the stars. Impossible, muttered one Federation Council member. This cannot be true. How could a primitive species defeat the Xiphar? It wasn't just disbelief, it was fear. The Federation had underestimated Earth, and now they were witnessing a galactic shift. Humanity, against all odds, had rewritten the rules of warfare. No longer were they just another backwater species. They were a force to be reckoned with. The Federation's leader, once cold and calculating, now stood in awe. What have we done? We've let them grow stronger while we watched. Now, we must reconsider everything. The humans have proven themselves.
As the Xiphar retreated, broken and humiliated, Earth stood victorious. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. They had earned their place among the stars. The Galactic Council chamber was silent, the weight of centuries of cosmic politics hanging in the air. Members from all corners of the galaxy, ancient civilizations and powerful species, watched in stunned disbelief as the Federation offered humanity a seat at the table, a seat among the galactic elite. Mitchell stood in the center of the room, the bright lights of 1,000 alien eyes locked on him. The Federation, once dismissive of humanity's presence in the galaxy, now couldn't afford to ignore them. Earth had faced annihilation, and in the face of extinction, humanity had struck back, with tactics no one expected, and technology that outwitted even the most advanced species. Humanity had broken the chains of their oppressors. The Xiphar dominion had been shattered, their retreat a humbling reminder of just how far Earth had come. Commander Mitchell, unflinching and steadfast, could feel the weight of history pressing down on him. The Federation had offered their recognition, but it was a hollow gesture. Humanity wasn't interested in mere acknowledgement. They had proven they belonged here. Now Earth would no longer be a backwater planet. They would be a power to be reckoned with, not just in name, but in strength. The Federation's representative stepped forward, extending a hand. Humanity has earned this position, they said, their voice laced with reluctance. Welcome to the Federation. But Mitchell's eyes were already elsewhere on the galaxy, and the war yet to come. Humanity's place had been secured, but the real fight for respect and survival was just beginning. The room was electric with tension as Mitchell stood before the Federation's ruling council. His face, stern and unyielding, mirrored the resolve of all humanity. The seat at the table was no longer enough. Earth was not here to be a subordinate. They were here to lead. Equality, not subjugation. Mitchell's voice boomed across the chamber, cutting through the quiet murmurings of the council. His words reverberated with the power of 1,000,000 voices. We are not here to bow. We've won our right to stand shoulder to shoulder with the galaxy's most powerful. If you want Earth's alliance, you will not get it on your terms alone." The Federation leaders shifted uncomfortably. They had not expected this challenge. Earth had been the underdog, an afterthought in galactic politics. Now that very humanity stood unbowed, demanding equal treatment. Mitchell's eyes narrowed. If humanity is to be part of the galaxy's future, then we will not bend to outdated protocols or the whims of ancient powers. We fight, we adapt, and we thrive. No one in this room will dictate our future. The Federation's leaders exchanged glances, uncertain, but they knew one thing. They could not afford to reject humanity now. Earth's newfound power had rewritten the rules, and Commander Mitchell was forcing them to accept a new reality. A reality where humanity would not just be a part of the galaxy, they would shape it. Though the Zyphar Dominion had been humiliated, their retreat a testimony to humanity's defiance. Their retreat was not a surrender. The Zyphar were far from defeated. They had tasted their first real defeat, and that taste burned deep into their collective consciousness. Commander Raxar, leader of the Zyphar forces, stood alone in the dimly lit war room aboard his flagship. The retreat had been a bitter one. His people, once invincible, had fled Earth's defenses, leaving their pride in tatters. But Raxar's mind, sharp and calculating, was already plotting their return. "The humans will not survive long," Raxar muttered under his breath, his gaze fixed on the star systems beyond. "They are weak. We allowed them to win, but next time we will break them completely." The Zyphar were wounded but not broken. Their forces would regroup, rebuild, and their hatred for humanity would fuel their next assault. And this time they would come prepared. Humanity's victory was only temporary in the eyes of the Zyphar. They had no intention of letting Earth rise to such prominence again. Behind the shadows of war, an even greater threat began to stir. The Zyphar were only the beginning. A darker, more insidious force was on the horizon, and they would be ready for it. Humanity's place in the galaxy had been cemented. No longer was Earth a forgotten world in the distant corner of the universe. Now Earth was a symbol of resilience, a living testament to the ingenuity and unbreakable will of humankind. The Federation, once dismissive and condescending, now spoke of Earth with respect and fear. The galaxy watched in silence as humanity began to flex its newfound muscle. The stars, once distant and cold, had become humanity's domain. The Federation, once the unquestioned authority in galactic politics, now found themselves walking carefully around Earth's interests. Commander Mitchell's influence was far-reaching, his voice a force in every council session. No longer could the other species simply push Earth aside. They now needed humanity's strength in the face of a galaxy that had begun to change. But with humanity's rise, the consequences were felt far beyond the confines of the Federation. Whispers spread through the galaxy, rumors of Earth's power and its defiance. New alliances were forged, old enemies reawakened. The galaxy was no longer a place of quiet, indifferent existence. It was now a place where anything could happen, where one species' rise could alter the fate of all. Humanity had reached its place in the cosmos, not as a fledgling race, but as a formidable force. And as the stars above glittered with the promise of new challenges, Commander Mitchell could only wonder how long the peace would last. But whatever came next, humanity would be ready, and this time, they wouldn't back down. Commander Mitchell stood alone on the bridge of Earth's first Federation warship, his gaze fixed on the vast expanse of space beyond. The stars, once distant and uninviting, now felt strangely intimate, symbols of the battles fought, the victories won, and the future that hung uncertainly before humanity. The soft hum of the ship's engines was the only sound, a stark contrast to the storm of thoughts in Mitchell's mind. Humanity had done the impossible. They had turned the tide of the war,
breaking the Zyphar Dominion's seemingly unstoppable advance. Earth had risen from the ashes, its people now feared and respected across the galaxy. But with that rise came responsibility, and the weight of it felt heavier than any enemy he had ever faced. Mitchell closed his eyes for a moment, his mind racing back to the days before the war. The skepticism, the dismissal from the galactic powers. No one had believed humanity could stand on equal footing with the stars. Now here he was, at the forefront of an intergalactic force, leading humanity into the unknown. The price of victory had been steep, with countless lives lost, friends, comrades, and allies who had given everything to see this day. Yet, despite the triumph, the future loomed like an uncertain storm. Humanity had proven its worth, but now the galaxy would watch closely, waiting for any sign of weakness. Mitchell knew that the road ahead would be fraught with new dangers, both from within and beyond the stars. "Commander," a voice interrupted his thoughts. It was his first officer, standing respectfully at the doorway. "We're ready to depart." With a deep breath, Mitchell turned away from the window, his resolve hardening. The future of humanity was still unwritten, but it would be shaped by their courage, their creativity, and their unyielding will to survive. Mitchell stood before the assembled officers, his eyes sweeping over the faces of those who had fought beside him. His voice was steady, but the weight of his words hung in the air, carrying the full measure of humanity's incredible journey. "Once we were dismissed," he said, his tone unwavering. "They called us primitive, weak, irrelevant. But today, we stand as something they never expected. We are no longer forgotten. We are legends." The officers exchanged glances, each of them knowing how much those words meant. The journey from Earth's fragile beginnings to this moment, the apex of galactic power, had been one of survival, grit, and sheer ingenuity. The Federation no longer looked down on humanity. They feared them. Mitchell's eyes flicked to the stars outside, the weight of their gaze heavy upon him. Humanity has earned its place. Now we must prove we are worthy of it. The bridge was alive with the sound of urgent whispers, as the communications officer worked frantically at his station. "Commander," he called, his voice tinged with a note of disbelief. "We've intercepted something we didn't expect." Mitchell's heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" A tense silence filled the room as the officer adjusted the signal. The strange transmission echoed across the speakers, a voice distorted and frantic, breaking through the static. The words were barely comprehensible, but there was no mistaking the fear in the tone. "The Zyphar, they were only the beginning. The true threat is still out there. We are coming. Prepare yourselves. Prepare humanity." Mitchell's pulse quickened. The words struck like a hammer, reverberating in his chest. The Zyphar had been ruthless, but now it seemed they were just the tip of the iceberg. A new, more terrifying force loomed on the horizon, and it was clear that humanity would be the target. "Can you trace it?" Mitchell demanded, his voice sharp with urgency. The officer nodded grimly. "The signal is coming from deep within the unknown sectors of the galaxy. We can't pinpoint the source yet, but it's out there." A chill crept up Mitchell's spine. The unknown had always been a source of both wonder and terror. Now it was a harbinger of war, a war that would test humanity's limits in ways they couldn't even imagine. "Alert the fleet," Mitchell ordered, his voice steady, but the weight of what was coming hung heavily on every syllable. "We prepare for the worst. Humanity is not done. We will face whatever comes with fire in our hearts." As the crew scrambled to respond, Mitchell stood at the center of the room, his thoughts racing. The stars had always been a vast, mysterious expanse, but now they felt like a battleground. Earth had earned its place, but that place was under threat once again, and this time, humanity would not be fighting alone. The galaxy had learned to fear their power, but it would soon learn that humanity was capable of so much more.